So welcome to York Festival Ideas and to this session on taking the plunge at cold water swimming. My name's Dr. Kyla Pennington. I'm a senior lecturer in mental health in the Department of Psychology at the University of York, and it's a real pleasure to welcome you to this session on cold water swimming. So yeah, hopefully we're going to explore some of the mental health and physical benefits, but also some of the risks associated with cold water swimming. I feel like quite a lot of you might have already started. So you might know more about it than me, and I'm hoping that we're going to get a good discussion going as well. So yeah, delighted to be here. We've got so I'll be chairing the session and facilitating the questions. But if you have questions for me, that's also fine. I'll have a go. But we've got Mike Fletcher, really pleased to welcome who's co-owner of Plunge Farm. We'll be seeing lots of beautiful images, I think, of Plunge Farm in slides as well, and hearing about his journey to discovering cold water swimmers and the move from having fishing nets. And also really delighted to welcome Heather Massey, who's come up from the University of Portsmouth on a long train yesterday, and a long train back down. She's Associate Professor in Extreme Environments and Physiology, and I love saying that's your title, and also the name of your lab group, Extreme Environments. Heather's a real internationally renowned expert, actually, definitely UK expert in cold water swimming, including the risks, but also very experienced as well as swam the Channel in some really quite serious cold water outdoor swimming. So we're going to hear from Heather as well. I just wanted to kind of set the introduction a little bit in terms of why we're having this event, why I brought these people together, and why I think it's an interesting thing to bring to kind of public discussion. And it's partly because I'm interested in why people are taking the plunge and swimming in cold water, and why people are doing it through the year, breaking the ice. Some of you talk about, who I've spoken to, talk about breaking the ice and that process, and actually that wasn't something that you started off thinking you were going to be doing. It's something that actually became, part of the experience for you. And it started for me early last year, so I moved to York at the beginning of January last year. But at the same time that I started the job, I actually was at a writing retreat, had to go to a writing retreat, academic writing retreat. So this is a structured writing retreat in Scotland. So this was on the shores of Loch Lomond. It was icy on the shores. And I'm not a cold water swimmer. I've been occasionally to Plunge since 2022 with friends just to celebrate birthdays, to go in the sauna primarily, and then maybe a little bit of cold water, and then back into the sauna. And this was the first time there was no sauna. There was Professor Rowena Murray, who is an academic who has expertise in structured writing retreats. She's also a cold water swimmer, and she persuaded me and another colleague of mine to go in the water very briefly. We didn't stay in very long. And it was an amazing experience. And the amazing experience was, after that, we had a writing session. And the calm and focus that I had during that session was not like any of the other writing sessions that we've done. And so I was really interested in, actually this is quite a challenging activity to do, psychologically and physically, but it does seem to have benefits and people keep doing it. So I'm a bit converted into moving this into my research area. I'm a stress researcher, and I've tried to kind of conceptualise why I'm interested in cold water swimming. And I think in this kind of image, which is very crude, so I apologise. But essentially, we need some challenge. So anyone who's heard of the Yerkes-Dodson curve, this is the idea that we need some level of kind of arousal and challenge to be motivated in our lives. So it's this idea of the Goldilocks zone. We want just the right amount of challenge in our life. This allows us to grow. Kind of takes you a little bit out of your comfort zone. You don't want to have too little stress. We don't want to be bored or have insufficient challenge. But also we don't want to have too much either. And that is a very individual thing to judge. Not everybody's going to have the same capacity for the same things. So understanding your own your own kind of limits, but also what you need for this moderate challenge, I think, is a really interesting area of research for me and lots of people. Also been reading in the literature, what is it that why do people cold water swim? And being in the moment seems to come up quite a lot. So this is from a qualitative study where someone said, I get headspace here, you forget everything when in cold water. So this idea that actually you're brought into the moment, and it's a kind of enforced way of doing that sometimes mindfulness practices, when you're just kind of sitting, it's not so easy to achieve that. And the other things that people, and you will, I think, probably know, is social connection and nature connectedness as well. So those three areas seem to come up repeatedly. So it's more than just, the physiology of what happens when you go in cold water. There's these other things that are happening as well. So some of my research now is wanting to really kind of explore that because, it's all interlinked. Okay, so that's my kind of background as to why I've kind of brought together, co-owner of Broadbridge Farm, so someone who really is facilitating a lot of these activities with a lot of accessibility for people, and also Heather Massey, who is so experienced in actually knowing what the effect of cold water is and how it might do that safely. So I'll pass on to Heather to give her part of this session.
Thanks very much, Kyla, and thank you very much for coming on a miserable, wet, windy morning. So I didn't intend to start this talk talking about water safety, but given the recent news, I think it's really pertinent that I know I'm probably speaking to the converted in the room, but just to remind people of those messages that, and obviously we're not going to speculate on anything to do with the cases, and all of our thoughts are with those families and friends involved. But really it's just to reiterate those messages and tell people that what those messages are. And the first one is float to live. Can I just have a quick show of hands? How many of you know how you float? So if you know how you float, just put your hands up. Excellent, okay. There's still one or two people in the room that aren't confident to put their hand up to say they can float. So that's absolutely why I've put this slide up. And hopefully those individuals can take away these messages, maybe go and practice that float in a swimming pool or at another location when they're in the water. I think it's really key that we not only look at making sure that people can float to live, but they know that floating is not just the standard starfish, where everybody's legs are at the surface of the water. People float in very different ways. And I'll come on to just describe that in a bit. But the float to live message has scientific evidence behind it. It's a proven method to help extend people's stay in water when they've been in difficulties and allow the emergency services to come and access them and remove them from the water. So it's really key component that we need to make sure that if somebody finds themselves in difficulty, whether they intended to go in the water or not, that we pass on that float to live message. We also want to have a national campaign, and that national campaign forms part of a bigger international World Drowning Prevention Day. And the national campaign that we have this year just so happens to be Find Your Float. So on the 25th of July, the Find Your Float message will be around a huge number of locations around England. And that will involve people learning to find how they float. So most of you in this room know how to float, but I'm sure you've got friends, family members that haven't practiced their float or are unsure how to do their float. So please go to this website for the Find Your Float campaign and see if there's a site local to you, possibly Pulbridge.
I think there might be one quite close.
Maybe might be one quite close. I've just been nudging him. And we'll see if we can increase the number of people that can put their hands up and say they can float. Now this Find Your Float message neatly links into the fact that not everybody that ends up in cold water necessarily intended to be there. And a number of people very recently have ended up in the cold water to try and help somebody get out. Now, we're really not trying to promote that message. what we want people to do if they find somebody in difficulties is follow that phone, float, throw message. Phone and get help come in. Float, so get somebody to roll onto their back, and float, stay calm, let that breathing that happens when you go into cold water, and then throw them a piece of emergency equipment that will help them to float. And wait until the emergency services come and stay with that individual. So that is the message that we really want to get across to people, those key messages around float and phone, float and throw. So yeah, I just thought, I know I'm speaking to a converted audience, but please just tell everybody that you know. It's a really important message. I come here today to tell you a little bit about some of the research that I do down in Portsmouth and also across England at the moment. And unlike most academic careers, I've been a cold water swimmer all of my life. My dad owned a dinghy, and I ended up preferring being in the water rather than him putting me in the water when we capsized, and that was quite regularly, to be fair. So I've been lucky enough to be close to bodies of water where you've been able to swim, and my dad, being a dinghy sailor, knew lots about risk and being able to teach us about the risk of being in cold water. So I feel very fortunate that I've had that upbringing, and I recognise that not everybody has had that. And I've developed my sort of swimming career. Then I got all body conscious as a teenager, and then gave up swimming for a bit, and took up lots of team sports. And I noticed as I was, pushing on a little bit, that the injuries started to creep in. And I ended up back in the pool doing lots of rehab. So I then thought, well, yeah, I quite like the team element of team sports, but I really like the swimming. So why not combine it with a bit of open water, long distance open water swimming? Because that is a proper team event. And so that's how I sort of built up the swimming I do, starting doing some shorter relays, and then they just got a bit longer. And then maybe the team didn't always get in the water with me, but they might be on a boat next to me. So that's how I kind of built up my sort of swimming career. But alongside that, I'm starting to recognise that, well, this idea of open water swimming, well, most people thought I was a bit weird in the 20noughties, and then more people started to do it in the 2010s. And then we started to, I met one of my colleagues that I now work quite closely with at Brighton, Hannah Denton, and she works in adult mental health. And between the two of us, we said, well, we'd quite like to do some work where we could just work at the beach. And, well, yeah, it kind of worked out. So we sort of talked and discussed this idea of working at the beach a bit more. And well, what happened is I then got contacted by the BBC. So Hannah and I started discussing how we could incorporate a bit of cold water swimming in with this BBC thing. And the BBC said they wanted to do a television programme about therapies that didn't involve taking pills or medications. So we thought, well, what about open water swimming? Maybe we could crowbar in a little bit of open water swimming and a bit of mental health. So the BBC found a lovely lady who said she would try anything. And she was very, very nervous, very scared of being in open water, very scared of being in cold water. So we brought her into our lab, and this is our lab in the picture. That's my supervisor, Mike Tipton, in the middle, Chris Van Tolken in the water. He didn't like being in the water either at that point. And then myself with a rather dubious haircut. But yeah, that was the idea. So a traditional academic process does not involve the BBC, and it doesn't involve starting off data collection by having a film camera shoved in your face. But hey-ho, that's how it happened. So we've built up a bit of a body of evidence from one person who, over the period of time we had her in a lab, and then we got a swim coach involved, and she swam regularly with the swim coach for safety, because the lakes that they were swimming at the time didn't have any lifeguards, so she always swam with her coach. So she, over the 6-month period, and in consultation with her GP, gradually came off her medication for depression. And we kept in contact with her for 18 months, and she was still medication free at that point. Now, we thought, well, at this point, Hannah and I are scratching our heads going, if it works for one, can it work for others? And I'm getting emails, and Hannah's getting emails saying, I totally understand what's happening in this programme, this has worked for me as well. So we're starting to think there might be a little bit of something in this. So we built up 6, 7 different types of study, some of which involved being at the beach, some of which unfortunately meant we were behind a desk a bit more. And gradually what we've done is we've built that level of evidence up to the point where we've got a clinical trial that's just about to complete. So we've done like a little feasibility clinical trial, and now we're doing a much larger clinical trial where we recruited 533 people across England who have lived experience of depression. And we have locations from South Shields, across to Windermere, down to Penzance, across to Chalkwell, Southend-on-Sea, a couple in London, at various different locations, so coastal, lidos, rivers, lakes, just to see if we can have people experience being in the cold water with a qualified and experienced swim coach who also has mental health training, to see if having that period of 8 sessions and then the opportunity to swim after, seeing if we can start to reduce people's experiences of depression symptoms. So unfortunately at the moment I don't have any results to give you, so I am so sorry, but that's because I've not been given any results yet from our statisticians. So I'm just as nervous and on tenterhooks about that as you will be. But early indications from our swimmers really do indicate that some of it might be the cold initially, that sort of shock when you get in, and it may well be that there's other components that definitely make up the whole exposure experience for them. And that tends to be that they're being physically active where they may not have been active for years. That they're learning new skills and how to master their body in a very different way, in a different environment. And then they're being in nature, and they're in groups that understand them. And finally, that they've built a community around the activity that they've been part of. So there are initial thoughts, but we'll wait to see what happens with the solid data on that. So I'm going to end my little bit by just having a little bit of an advert. We've got a conference coming up at the University of Plymouth. I know that's obviously a long way away, but just sort of advertise it. I'm going to be speaking there. My supervisor, Mike Tipton. There'll be people talking about sauna research. There'll be people talking about menopause in cold water research. I'll be talking a bit more about the research in mental health as well. So if you want to come along, possibly swim in Plymouth Hoe, then make a great weekend of it. Okay? I'll leave it up to you then, Mike. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Hello. I just can't hear you. That's better, is it? How are you doing? I'm guessing from some of the faces that I've seen, some of you already know me. I'm Mike Fletcher, and I am co-owner of Poolbridge Farm. Hands up if you've been to Poolbridge Farm. Could have just done it there. Would have been fine. So you're coming out. Right, I'm going to talk about a little bit of the story and the journey that actually hasn't been that long. And I don't have quite the academic background as Heather does. My academic background started when I was 15, when I left school, and it finished there. So, so I am just going to be anecdotal what I can tell you, what I've picked up from speaking to lots of people. It's an opinion, I might be wrong, but that hasn't stopped me before. So let's go into how it started. So a little bit about my background. I joined the Air Force, did 9 years there, a couple of tours of the Gulf, and left after the Gulf War because I didn't join to be one of the bad guys. After that, I kind of went through my batshit crazy years, and eventually borrowed somebody's CV, made stuff up and ended working as a consultant at a bank. I winged my way through life for the next few years just doing kind of this but making shit up, saying it with the confidence of somebody that knows what they're talking about, and that's how I paid the bills for a while. And then in 2007, we bought Plunge Farm, myself and my 3 brothers, and I ran it as a fishery, as a sideline to also working as a consultant, and then ended up actually over the years understanding a little bit more about what I was talking about, and sort of reflected on my past in the military, and ended up doing teamwork, and that's what I ended up doing. I specialised in sorting out toxic teams and that kind of good stuff. So we bought Plunge Farm in 2009. I came up with an idea for the Q Lake, something for fishing where everybody fished on the island, and it was a new lake. We did that and it went ever so well. Anyway, fast forward a little bit to COVID. That shut us down as it shut down the world. And I thought, oh God, these lakes are lovely out with those miserable cantankerous bastards all sat around. And it was lovely. I had the best lockdown ever. I essentially camped on the Q Lake Island and had the best time. An osprey came and lived with me for 2 weeks. It was amazing. And then obviously the lockdown ended and we welcomed back the anglers, and it was the only thing people could do was fishing and golf. So everybody, regardless of whether they knew how to fish or not, rocked up, and there was queues to the road every morning, and we had to limit numbers, and it was awful. It was awful to go from this beautiful, peaceful time of just being in nature and understanding it to just the most obnoxious people coming into your home, and it was awful. Anyway, I went back to training. I was working at DEFRA actually, running a team there, and we were looking at different ways of doing farms. So again, it was something I actually knew a little bit about. And there was people talking about swimming. Like, oh, we've done some swimming. I'm like, oh, okay, what's swimming all about? And anyway, I organised a field trip for the people that worked at doing all the farming initiatives, and I took them around to what we'd done at the far end of the farm, which is a 70-acre dry meadow land, and to show them what we'd done and the wildlife ponds that we'd dug. And there was 2 of them that were wild swimmers, as we call them. We walked past them on her lake and they're like, oh, you should do swimming in here. Nobody would want to swim in here. What a ridiculous idea that was. Anyway, that was summer 2021, and it got to October, November. I was still working at DEFRA and running the fishing side of it as well. And we used to do fishing matches there. So every Sunday morning, a load of the most miserable people you could get together used to sit around the Monet Lake, and they would catch fish. They would put them in a net, and they would weigh the net, and whoever caught the most fish won. But they would moan. Every time I went near them, they would just whinge and moan at me. And it got to then, and I just had enough. And I was like, it went, I swallowed them. And then I was left with an empty lake and not making any money from it. So I'm like, right, those people that do this swimming thing, I know it's the wrong time of year, nobody swims in winter obviously. Maybe we can do that. So I went on Facebook and found a group for swimmers, and put out, got a little lake. Anybody want to rock up and just give us some feedback and see what you think to it. And that was the 5th of December 2021. And lots of people turned up, and they got on their, oh, there it is, they got on their picture here. So that bit of mud behind where that person's getting is where the fisherman would sit, and that was called a peg. And I thought, that's good enough to get in and out of the water. They could just slide down like a graceful otter. They got in like this. Was there anybody there that day that was here? There you go, there you go. So, thanks to these people, this all happened. They got in and went for a swim and told me how lovely it was, and I'm like, you're not wide upright, you lot. Anyway, we did it again the following week, and more people came back, and I'm like, still not wired up right. So we did a charity event on New Year's Day 2022, and lots of people turned up, and we were like, right, let's see what we can do. So every Sunday morning, I went to the brothers, because there's myself and 3 brothers on it. I was like, there's something in this swimming. I think we need to try it. It didn't receive the best feedback for the idea. One of them was convinced there was no such thing as wild swimming, but anyway, I managed over a while to slowly persuade them to look, just give it on a Sunday morning, and we'll see if we can get this one. So every Sunday morning, I'd light a fires in the little barn. Health and safety was a little bit more lapsed back then. Mind the really sharp agricultural equipment and the hay bales next to the barn, we'll be fine. We're all in this together. And it's like, oh, these people are lovely. And we would chat, and it was just nice people, and having normal conversations that involve fish and bait. And I'm like, oh, this is lovely. So that happened, and then Selena, one of the people that came in, said, oh, could you do it? In fact, wouldn't that be a new animal? So do we do it on a Wednesday morning as well? So we did the breakfast club on a Wednesday morning, and we'd get up there at 6 o'clock we started, and people would come before work, and we'd light the fires and put the word to write, and then I'd go back off and do my day job at DEFRA. Anyway, this carried on, and then Fridays, it's like, people want to come on a Friday after work and chill out for the day. And it was this point that they put a stop to consultants in the public service, so I lost my job there, and I was like, right, I think I might be able to make a go of this. I think there's something in there. So I started full-time at Coolbridge Farm for the first time since we run. And anyway, do anybody remember those in 2022 we had those really hot days where it got to about 40 degrees. So the Money Lake had just actually closed that because we had an algae bloom in it, so I'd owned the M Lake. And the M Lake had just started as a members only lake for some anglers. They really hated me. So I was like, no, I'll just move you on briefly. It'll only be for a week or so while I sort the algae bloom out. And there was a third of them I moved over to the Q Lake, a third of them I gave lessons to make sure they could handle the big fish there, and a third of them I asked to leave and gave them a refund. So those 40-degree days, the sun was shining, and M Lake was heaving off. What I thought was heaving back then, it was just quite there. And that's how it started. So like, okay, so we managed to do that, and the following year we opened Horseshoe, and then the following year after that we opened the Q Lake. So that's a whistle-stop tour how it started. So what did I discover on this journey? It doesn't matter. Everybody was against the idea. Everybody from the accountant to every angler in the land still hates me. But friends, family, everybody said it was an idea that wouldn't work. It had no legs. There was no such thing as wild swimming, and what a ridiculous thing to do to close fisheries that were arguably some of the best in the north of England. And it's been a real good mindset change for me now, because I think whether you're going to write a book, paint a picture, start a hobby, start a business, it doesn't matter what you are going to do or how good you can do it. There will always be somebody there to tell you are doing it wrong. So that's why before you start, it doesn't matter what you're going to do, just know that someone's going to tell you you're doing it wrong, you're not doing it right, you shouldn't do it. So, okay, just do it. Wild swimming saves lives. So this was kind of, when we started, this was one of the things that took a while to get used to, because fishermen are a breed onto their own, but when swimmers started coming and they were saying thank you, saying kind words, and I was like, oh, this is weird. But then they would start saying, this is changing my life. And then they would say, 2 people separately have come up and said, I was going to take my life, and this has changed what I've done, and that's something to be really proud of. People coming off antidepressants, people not being lonely anymore, people finding a community that is helping them through battles, through cancer, through divorce, through whatever it is. And so for that, it's not just the swimming, but it's that, I don't know, it's that conduit, it's that way into creating that community. So I do believe that having that purpose, having that friendships, and something about cold water swimming that we'll go on to. I genuinely do believe that we have saved lives over these last few years, so something we're very proud of. Most men are not weirdos. What an absolute cock-humble this bloke is. And he's not on his own, is it? So when we first started, it soon became really apparent that one of the things that I need to do was make a safe space for men. Because as a bloke, I've never been intimidated by the opposite sex. I've never had to plan my route where I'm going jogging. I've never thought, where am I going to park my car? I don't have those issues because I'm a bloke, and that's just the way it is. We were getting weird blokes turning up, and it was my job to go, not a fucking chance, leave, and creating a safe space where now we have people that will come on their own, get changed into a swimsuit and go swimming on their own. They will come camping on their own. They will do that because they feel safe. And I think if we are going to expand this thing around and create these safe spaces that are havens for mental health, we need to ensure that that is a safe space for women, I think, because as blokes can look after ourselves. So I think that's a really, really important thing for us to do. And I think we've lost touch with nature. I think you know, we sit in rooms with artificial light, and we don't notice the moon phases. We don't notice, you know, when there's ice on the lakes. We don't notice the birds starting to build the nests. We don't notice all this. But now, as swimmers, we know when it's getting cold because we're looking at the temperature gauge every day. What's the temperature? Just come. Doesn't matter. Icy. Whatever it is. But we notice it, and we notice when the sunrise starts. You know, the people that are taking the pictures for the sunrise. We know when the sunset's changing. We notice the seasons. We notice the birds. We notice the flowers. All these things, and all of a sudden you've just got that connection. And if we are going to do something to try and protect this planet, what a great way to start, where actually people notice that there's the differences. We notice climate change and the effect that it's having. So rather than looking at the big world where people don't understand where there's going to be drought and water shortages, let's start here and then we can move out and understand that first. So I think it's really important to actually understand nature, and this is a great way of doing it from the duck's eye view. Thank you, folks. And fishing, you know, I mock the anglers, rightly so, but it was their place, you know, that Wheldrake Island was their place where they saw the sunrise and the sunset, and they were doing their mindful thing by camping by a lake. And I think there's far more to swimming than just going for a swim. Yes, there's the physical side of it, yes, there's the mental side of it, but there's that purpose of getting out and doing something, and actually being there and being around like-minded people. I think it helps with loneliness. You know, how many people don't have that purpose? I think it's a third space. You know, we have our homes and our work. Where else is there to go? Because they're shutting the libraries, they're shutting the youth clubs, they're shutting everything else down. So having that third space where people can come in safety. A lot of people come, they don't even swim. They'll just come and sit, they'll read a book, they'll throw up a hammock because it's just a nice space. And I think we're losing that, you know, and I think it's really, really important that we fight for these spaces and we try and create more. So yeah, there is far more to swimming than getting wet. Then came the sauna. So this was, that was Shepherd's Hut. So very briefly, I bought it off an old chap quite a few years ago. He's sadly passed away now, but his granddad actually built it as a Shepherd's Hut in about 1911. And I bought it for 80 quid because I knew the wheels would work at least that. And I packed it up and I was like, it's too small to make a garden office. I don't know what to do with it. So I just packed it up there. And we started doing saunas in 22. Danny from Whitby Wellbeing came and he plonked some tents up by the lakes. And he said, do you want to have a go? And I was like, oh, do you know, I fancy this sauna thing. Let's give it a go. And it was a beautiful, icy morning. The lakes were just that little ice, bright blue sky, the sun was shining, and I'm sat in a tent with some lovely people. And I don't know if it was a light bulb or a pound sign came above me. I have that little shepherd's hut. And I went I spoke to Buzz, I'm like, I think we should be doing saunas, and they disagreed, but I'm like, I think, no, honestly, I think there's something in this. So I says, I'll convert that little shepherd's hut, and they're like, what, that shed on wheels? No. Anyway, I did it anyway, and that was the start of what is arguably quite a nice thing to do, isn't it, our saunas. And there's something about being in a sauna. I love it. I don't swim. I get really, really bad Raynaud's. And it's just not the risk, the reward isn't worth the pain that I have to go through afterwards. But I love the sauna. And there's something about saunas that I think that forges friendships. I think it's very much, you know, like swimming. You sit there, it's quite close. I think most people that have who's saunaed with us? Yeah, okay. Generally speaking, you have lovely conversations. Yeah, and every topic under the sun is covered. And I think, especially in winter when it is cold, it's that shared adversity of people having to get into the water, they're coming back out, and I think just doing that together just seems to forge really good friendships. And it's a place where you put the world to right. Look out the window, and it's not a bad view from there, is it? So saunas are ace. I love them, and I think it's a great gateway as well for people that are wanting to get into go swimming, because you can come along. It's really easy to get into a warm room and sit down. You get yourself nice and hot, and then you're ready to cool down. So I think it's just a great way of, if you have any friends that are umming and ahhing about it, I think the sauna is the best way to get people into it. And the community we have is just, it's incredible. I think, again, that's one of the things that I don't think anybody expected, that the community that's brought up. We have the volunteers that help out, and you're like, oh, you're just amazing that people come and help us run it. The little groups that have set up, and groups within groups, and you've got all these people that come at certain times, and everybody helps each other out, and there's always a smiling face, and whenever somebody comes that's new, then they're welcomed and they're helped in there. So the community, I think, I think it's maybe what society's missing a little bit, but we've got it in our own little slice here. Swimming women are awesome. I've lived in a work, should I say, in a more male-dominated society, from the Air Force to consultancy to fishing, and now I am surrounded by women that are far brighter and more capable than me, and it's so good that that I've been able to create this space for people to enjoy, and we have a great team, a phenomenal team. Yeah, swimming women are awesome. I'll end there. Thank you very much.
With our microphones now, and open it up to some questions, comments, discussion. Any questions that you have for the speakers? Thanks so much, both of you. How do we switch these? Are they on?
Two.
Yeah, it was really great hearing both of your perspectives. You have really created something very, very special with Corbridge Farm, and I guess the shared, what you both touched on a little bit was around safety. So yours in terms of physical safety, but also yours in terms of psychological safety. So I just wondered, outside of Corbridge Farm, how do we try and create that, I suppose? You have done that, I think, a little bit in your trial, Heather.
Is this working?
Yeah.
Okay, I can't tell. Okay, that's a challenging question.
Sorry.
The way we've done it within our research context and setting is that we've employed swim coaches that have lived experience of supporting people with symptoms of depression, or they've had their own mental health struggles. So they have trod the path that the people we're supporting have already been on. And I think having those individuals and their lived experience has really been fundamental to making sure that people come to the sessions and that they come back. And lots of people said, oh, I'm just going to try it for one session, and they get hooked. And it's really having the right people supporting that has been, lots of people say that organisations are made up of, you know, the people the workers, and that's absolutely the case in what we've been doing.
Okay, would you go into that anything there?
Yeah, it's so the accessibility thing. I think making it aspirational enough, but also accessible, so people see it and go, you know, swimming the channel is quite tricky.
Boring.
Yeah. So people might see that and go, oh, I could never do that. But seeing a picture of somebody having, you know, with a nice group, having a little breaststroke in a beautiful lake, then that's achievable. Having people or a place where they can go where somebody will show them the first time, I think that's a great way of getting into it. But then the other side, we used to have people give free tickets away so that we could pass them on to people. But the issue that we had was people with transportation. So the people that maybe needed the most didn't have, you know, the way of getting to us. So I think that needs to be addressed somehow with public transport being better so people can actually get to these places.
Yeah, and I think in terms of mental health and access to green spaces, that's a wider issue as well, isn't it? Okay, questions. Do you want me to? No.
Hi, thanks. Thanks, Sam. Yeah, great to hear from all of you. Thank you. Looking at the audience, as Mike noticed, it's mainly women. In any of the studies, is there any reason why this type of activity is appealing more to women of a certain age as well than men?
You go for an opinion.
I'll go.
You think Mike's going to do that?
I have nothing but opinions.
Michael
You
go
go
with the
first.
opinion and Heather will go for the evidence.
Yeah.
I think that's a good. That's why I've put them together.
I think there's something in it that blokes like kit. How many husbands have got things where they need to buy something?
Yeah. There's quite a lot of kits with while swimming. I mean, I was even reading this point. There's a research study on dry robes. It's actually, you know, for some people, I think there's a bit of stigma about it. But yes, you're right. There's not as much kit.
No, so I do. Yeah, not you kids, so you need to sit there with all your But I do think there's something in that you don't need. You can't tinker in your garage on an evening. I also think there's. I think we're just not as tough either.
Yeah.
Blokes. I think that. It's true. I have no evidence to back that up.
I'm not sure we do. Yeah, this is something that we have noticed for a long, long time. We see very different tribes within outdoor swimming. We have the triathletes, who are mostly men, driven by their Garmins and putting everything on Strava, and wearing wetsuits. The men in the room, though, you're welcome to join the women doing head-up breaststroke or bobble hatting or whatever. What we actually need to do is, well, this is an opinion, and I don't know whether it's borne out in fact. But when we've asked women why they swim, lots of them have said, well, they like swimming outdoors because you can only see people from here upwards. So all of their inhibitions that they have about their body cannot be seen. Okay, you might have to get dry and dressed, but you've got a big, thick jacket. Lots of varieties are available. But you know, your body inhibitions going in and out of the cold water bear into insignificance. When you're in the water, you're more able. So particularly for people that might not go and do a park run or a jog or something like that, actually most people have some capability in swimming, and they've developed that capability. And actually there's a bit of mastery gone on there. You're still learning about your body, what happens to it when it goes into cold water for the first time, and then, oh, you've done it for 3-4 months, and actually you don't get that same cold shock response, and you've stayed in the water longer, and everything changes every single time. So it's not like going into a swimming pool where the same people are in the same lane, turning up and down the black line, nothing changes. Every time you go to an outdoor swimming environment, something is different. And I just think there's something about the changes that really resonates with women, and women of my age and a little bit older, that you need that sort of stimulation in a different way than you might have had as a younger adult.
There has been some research, and I think it's a growing area, isn't it, in terms of menopause and women benefiting in terms of symptoms. I know you published something with Joyce Harper from UCL.
Yeah, so it was a survey, okay, of just over 1,000 women, and we asked them about their menstrual and menopause symptoms, and the impact that outdoor swimming, or how they felt their symptoms had been changed, or whether they had changed by their cold water swimming. And we were astounded by the response that so many people had found big reductions in many of their symptoms of menopause in particular, and particularly focused around brain fog, mental health, depression. That we were, there's definitely something going on that we need to look into a bit further.
Yeah, definitely more research needed.
Always.
Can I just stick up for the men in the room here, because I'm feeling that from seeing this, and I know how welcoming Corbridge Farm is. I would just be feeling, oh, am I not going to be, if the swimming women are awesome, but over the last year I think you've had loads more men's groups come through, loads of men's groups saunering, and I wouldn't want anyone to think, oh, it's just, go away from here thinking it's just women. You raise money for menfulness as well, and I just think that might just be worth mentioning. So I haven't got a question, and I just, yeah, so I just wanted to say that.
Big up the blue balls.
Yeah, I agree, Mandy. You're absolutely right. Yes, it is a place where everybody is welcome, and I think it is one of those things that is a leveler as well to a certain extent. And yeah, we are getting definitely a lot more guys coming through, especially with the saunas as well. And yeah, it is a real net, because you know, mental health is everybody, isn't it? And everybody needs that help. So I think those that do it, we do have a lot less chaps coming in winter just swimming, but the 3 seasons and the saunas, we do get a lot of guys coming now, and it is great. You know, great for those guys. Our mental health, it really is. Thank you, Mandy, for pointing out.
It's not so much a question, it's just an observation of that question about men. Men, on a whole, we're rubbish at doing things. Ask an occupational therapist, we're the hardest group to engage. We don't tend to like doing things that aren't, you know, stereotypical. Alcohol, watching football, those sort of, you know, what blokes do. I don't like football, I'm not that person. The booze maybe. But it's that thing of, it's really hard to get men into any activity, it's not just swimming. But then likewise, you also get less presentation of milder presentations in mental ill health, because men don't seek help either. So I think what we've got is a population of people who, and somebody mentioned age, you know, people maybe somewhat more comfortable in themselves, who are doing things that are healthy for themselves, whereas blokes on the whole, and there are exceptions, and I'm probably looking at some across the room, don't tend to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That is, and we know that as well. You know, in terms of treatment seeking, we know, you know, we do have that there is increased depression and anxiety rates in females, but that is, you know, there is a missing population of men where they won't treatment seek and go to the GP, or their recognition of the symptoms of depression and their presentation of those experiences are really different. So yeah, I think accessing or you know, creating accessibility for men and in some way supporting those kind of activities and engagement, I think is really. I wonder, yeah, whether or not in your study did you manage to recruit men and women equally?
We didn't manage to recruit men and women equally, but we did have bespoke groups for men in particular, because we did know that whilst women liked their protected spaces, men also wanted their protected spaces, and they didn't want to be the only man in a group. And so men were fearful of coming forwards for that reason. And when we offered bespoke groups for men, we got a much bigger uptake. It wasn't huge, and by all means we did recruit a lot of women, but by having that protected space, it really did help.
Hi. So we talked a lot about men, we talked a lot more about women. What about young people? I work in education, I work with people who've got anxiety, depression. I'm curious about what studies there are out there about just this, cold water for young people. I know young people come and, I call it Benidorm in summer.
They're benefiting in the summer, aren't they?
It's like, well, there are all these people. But, you know, the children are coming, which is great, but it's about the studies and it's about the kind of extending this further. I'm curious whether that's something that you guys are considering.
Always.
It's under research.
Yeah, it's a bit. Yeah, it's very under researched.
Yeah.
I think there's two elements. This almost falls into a public health message, in terms of trying to educate young people about how they can stay safe in cold water, as well as you know, find the potential joy and benefit from being in that space. So I think there's two messages to get across. Recently, the national curriculum has now added a in-class sort of curriculum around the dangers of being in cold water, and that's to be, you know, applauded. It's taken 20 years for that to happen, and that's nationwide. But there's the missing bit about the skill component, about how do people spot rips, and however, you know, whatever body of water they're in person rather than just seeing on a computer screen. How do they access the water safely? How do they do this? How do they move their body in water and keep themselves safe? So I still think there's more to do, and you know, school swimming lessons are in some areas really poorly attended. In others there's big uptake. So we've always got scope to work with our young people, both in a pool, firstly and foremost, and then try and transition that to open water.
I've got another question. Can you hear me, Mike? Are you up?
I can, yeah. I was just with Heather's finished. So with the young. Oh, sorry.
I was going to ask something. Are you open to school field trips? There you go. New business model.
Because I need more people coming.
Not on the spot.
So with the young kids, I think there's I can only speak anecdotally and again just an opinion. The kids seem to absolutely love it, and once they've been, they seem to want to come again and again. I think there's a few things why it's really beneficial. One, they're not on devices. You know, they're getting a healthy kick of dopamine rather than chasing it on a device. I think they're seeing, you know, for the teenage boys and girls, they're seeing normal bodies in the normal place, and I think that's so healthy from what they're all bombarded with. And I think it's kids that have just got that ability to be children, you know, without any pressure, and they can jump and they can laugh and they can scream and they can do all that. But as we know of late, you know, in the wrong body water, that can be dangerous. So I think that it has to be coupled with that education of the safety first.
Yeah.
Hi. Sorry. I just wondered if it's a research
based question about how much of a link you've got with, we talk about public health. I know there's quite a big amount of work done with Get Active on prescription and referrals for gym memberships and stuff for people through GPs. Funding squeezes affecting lots of people, but there are a lot of gyms around to refer to. Anyone who tried to book into Pulbridge Farm over half term without planning in advance, there is a finite availability there, and there is a transport issue. There is a, you know, we're a converted audience who are predominantly, I'm guessing, able to drive to Pulbridge. You can go swimming with very little kit, I disagree. I didn't know what dry road was for until recently, and you just don't need, but you can easily feel like you need the kit, and that excludes people. And I just wonder, there's lots of, I'm not a very strong swimmer, so I'd be quite nervous, but I know there's lots of places that are safe and are publicly accessible, but is there some links basically from your research to trying to get this more inclusive through the health service and the health benefits?
So our research is funded by the National Institute of Health and Care Research, and it's funded as a swimming course with swim coaches as a basic model, because we want to introduce people safely to the water, and allowing them to have that accessibility option and the safety is really important. The next step for us is then how we implement that process. And as you rightly point out, funding is tight. And so that is my next headache, and why I will spend the next 20 years trying to get that sorted. So yeah, this is a, although you know, I have a little bit of, you know, funding for this, it's a massive passion project for me in trying to keep people safe, well, and improve their mental health. So yeah, we are open to every opportunities. I'm trying to get up to Westminster as often as I can and speaking to MPs and saying, look, you need to start funding this in your local areas, speaking to funding partners. The problem with the funding landscape that we have is it's very piecemeal and it's very grant orientated, and it's very, it's not sustainable. You're funded for a finite period of time rather than actually allowing those things to work to follow on. So if you have good uptake, they'll fund you for 1 or 2 years. But what happens after that point, when you've got people that are enjoying it but aren't able to sustain it without some support? And unfortunately, this is the way things are set up, but we need to break that cycle. Sorry to be a bit pessimistic, but I'm in that loop at the moment, and it frustrates me so much.
Thank you, keep trying.
I will, yeah. I don't give up.
Okay, one more question. We could talk to you more for hours.
Yeah, it just came up as you were saying that, really.
So I can't, I don't know how to articulate it well, but it's thoughts around and questions around how that all links with the community aspect that we, like you say, we desperately need more community spaces, healthy community spaces where being human in all our shapes and forms is normalised, being connected with nature, feeling like not ownership but like custodians and part of it all, the living system, and then have someone who's moved over a few years ago from Leeds area where there was access to rivers a lot more to swim. But like, we can't swim in all the water that's around us because it's just not dirt, it's not clean. And that brings up feelings of affliction and mental health. We're angry because it's not being sorted, we don't have a right to it apparently, you know. What emotions came up when you're talking?
Lots of questions.
Maybe the pollution one, because we were talking about this yesterday, and
we were. I mean, pollution in all our bodies of water is an issue.
Yes.
Also, the perception of pollution is, we are more aware of it than we ever used to be. I remember when I was a child, I was probably swimming next to a dirty nappy. So the amount of pollution that we have, we're just very aware of it, and it hits the headlines to a greater extent than it ever used to. So I think we're at that point where we're monitoring it more, so we're more aware of it. I don't have any answers to that. That's government levels need to sort out the water companies and do what they need to do to try and clean up all our bodies of water. I think it's disgraceful. So
You can, if you want to help monitor rivers, join Water Watch, and they will send you out kits like twice a year.
that's the Environment Agency. Yeah.
And a local plug for Use It or Lose It, if you look them up. So we're doing some monitoring of the use and the FOSS as well. So keep an eye on
I
that.
think we should just be getting really angry until the nationalised water, because it's a God-given right, it comes from the air, it's a monopoly, and there's a load of national businesses making billions of pounds, getting us into debt and dumping that stuff into our rivers. We are not angry enough.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We can. Thanks so much for all of you. I could talk a lot longer, and I'm really, really interested in all of your experiences as well, actually. But yeah, thanks again to Mike and Heather for their insights and expertise, sharing their expertise and experience with us. That's good.